I Am is a presentation of Maryland Centers for Independent Living. My name is Lori Magruder. I'm the Executive Director of Resources for Independence, and we serve Garrett, Allegheny, and Washington counties, of course, in Maryland. Independence Amplified Maryland is pleased to bring you today's program that affects the lives of all Marylanders. This program is being recorded, which we just heard, and will be archived on YouTube. It typically takes about 48 hours to show up there, but you can guarantee it will show up. As Heather said, the participants will be muted to avoid background noise and all of that stuff, but you can unmute and mute yourself by doing *6. If you have any questions or comments, we suggest if you can put them in the chat box or raise your hand to be recognized, that would be great. And let's see here. At the end of today's program, there will be an opportunity for everyone to announce community events or activities of interest that pertains to anything in Maryland. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and give it to Katie Collins Irkey, which I think everyone pretty well knows by now, but today is her birthday, so happy birthday, Katie. And she's going to introduce our guest.
Hello, thank you. Yes, it is my birthday. I've got the crown. I had to wear it because my staff gave me a big basket if you didn't hear the story, and I didn't know when else I would be able to wear it. So thank you, ARI staff who are on the call, for my crowns. So I'm really excited today to have Gail Godwin et al. On the call today. She's brought a group of fabulous people, one of which is a staff from ARI, and I think, Crystal, are you presenting too? Staff from Image Center. On Expectation Matters. So Gail, for those of you who don't know Gail has been working within Maryland for many years now. She is the Executive Director of Shared Support Maryland. They provide support brokerage to people who receive services through the Developmental Disabilities Administration and have chosen to self-direct their services. But she's also does a lot of great trainings, and she is an influencer in terms of person-centered thinking and planning. So Gail, turn it over to you.
Katie, thank you so much. It's not good morning. I don't know, it's good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting us to this necessary weekly event. The Independent Amplified Maryland has been really amazing. I know a lot of people that have taken advantage of this, and it's incredible that you are all doing what you're doing to keep things moving in the time of Zoom, which is about to crash, as we know. So I'll speak quickly. Yes, we did bring a group today. I don't think we brought them, we corralled them because they are mostly SIL employees, so I'm excited for those people to speak. As Katie mentioned, we are a small provider. We just turned 14 about a week ago, and providing primarily support brokerage to people using self-directed services. We provide other services as well, like doors, and things that are also that are able to be self-directed. We have no interest in providing support where an agency is in control or where a system is in most control. So we find it to be a really important part of our mission and the action that we proceed with through our mission. We're really excited to talk to you today about Expectations Matter, My Life, My Choice, My Plan, which is 100% about people's capacities and taking control of their future, which, as we understand, is the reason for these Monday presentations. Last spring, summer, which seems like 10 years ago in so many ways, the Maryland Developmental Disabilities Council sent out a request for proposals for person-centered planning. It was for person-centered planning for people with disabilities and their families. And the project was to be 2 years. This fits, if people are familiar or unfamiliar with the DD Council, there are developmental disabilities councils in every state under the administration for community living. And they typically fund what they call projects of innovation that fit each of their 5-year state plans, which target the most important things that people and families have said are essential that the states pay attention to. And person-centered planning is one because in Maryland, like many other states and around the world, has been focused mainly to providers. The training and technical support has really been primarily sent to providers and systems. And we've all heard the word transform, and I don't know about you, but it is a word that I could go without anymore. It is about time that there was something for people and their families so that they learn in a formal way. Many of us, like the SILs and like Shared Support Maryland, take our time to explain and educate people on planning, but very often, and as Michael, you just mentioned this prior to the session, is people focus, or really what they know best is what they cannot do. So it is about time that people focus on what they can do and know that the system should be focused in that way as well. It fits the, shared support only plans with people in this way. So person-centered planning is just the way we do it. We don't have another way to do it. So when we saw the RFP, it took us about 1 second to decide if we were going to answer it, and we did. And the first people that we called, or probably we emailed them, were the Centers for Independent Living. We believe and act on exactly, not in the same way, but in different ways. I think that's what makes the world go round, that people are in charge of their services, that they have inherent rights around their planning, shall be in control, and that our role in this as service providers is to support that to whatever end that is, to whatever degree that is. So that partnership has been incredible. Almost every single one of you said yes, and many of you and your SILs are extremely involved in the actions of the project, which we'll talk a little bit more about as well. So we had to twist maybe 1 or 2 arms and asked a few other people and organizations that are similar to us, like Project Action in DC and Metro Maryland, people on the go, some providers like Resource Connections and a couple other small providers that have a similar way of thinking and acting. Different people kind of that have been in and out of our system, primary focus on people with disabilities and families. So we had a group of all of us there, which really makes the grant what it is. And we're going to talk in detail about what those things are. The grant began in September of 2019. We are really excited about an extension that we got before even asking, which is really nice because of our COVID pandemic. Things did slow down, and we are able to proceed with the project through December 2021. Expectations Matter focuses on several things. We formed an advisory group, which you'll hear more from Joe Mermanap on. We developed a 1 and 2 hour module to train people with disabilities and family members on person-centered planning. You'll hear more from that from Christy. We recruited and trained trainers. That is an ongoing process, which we'll talk a lot about, and Shannon and Kristen will help with that. The trainer model is something that is a big chunk of the project, where people who are trainers are going to also train the next wave of trainers, those that want to do that. We are to train all over Maryland, which became increasingly easy when you do it via Zoom instead of driving. Although we were looking forward to driving all over Maryland. We happen to love to do that and connecting with people in person. So maybe in year 2, that will be something that we get to resume. Everything right now is web and phone calls. The idea is that we reach people that are hard to reach. And I think, you know, most of us understand how certain people are perhaps, I don't know if they're protected from the information, or people who might be vetting mail and announcements decide it is not for this person because of their disability or their situation. We think it is really important that we figure out a way to get to those people. Often those are people who may live more remotely or without a lot of contact, rural, without a lot of contact with you know, outside service. And also people who live with providers in group homes or a more segregated living, like an institution. So those are people that tend to get less mail directly addressed to them, where they open it and are privy to the information that comes to them. So we find it important to, you know, as we all would, to make sure those are people that we target. So we're working really hard on that. We have an evaluation component, and we have some other neat things that we're going to talk more about. I am going to turn it over to Jerry, also one of your employees, Jerry Taylor, to talk a little bit about the history of person-centered planning and how it relates to the project. Jerry? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jerry Taylor, and I am with the Southern Maryland Center for Independent Living. We're located in Mechanicsville, Maryland. Today, I will give you a very brief history of person-centered training. In the early days, or the early years of training and planning for people with disabilities, the services were often based on disabilities and not the person. The plans were written by experts who had little or no knowledge about the person that they were writing the plans for. Now, at that time, there was no family involvement. The person had no rights or any say about the plan. But I'm here to tell you today that all over the world, including Maryland, this is changing. Person-centered training is on the horizon, and it is making itself known. But person-centered training and planning has a long history. It has its roots in the normalization and independent living movement. Person-centered training is also grounded in a social model of disability. It is based on strengths, which is an approach, and this idea dates back to 1959. Person-centered planning is also based on some early examples of community integration and early ideas of living your best life. Now, the tools of person-centered training, they first started being developed around 1972. These tools were used to help understand a person's capacities and a person's worth. I will say this, that in the state of Maryland, person-centered planning projects as a whole have historically been well supported in the state of Maryland. Now, let me give us a brief rundown because for our younger people with disabilities, they may not know the long, hard road that person-centered planning has taken. Now, it's been around since 1959, and that's just it. It's kind of just been around. Then in 1964, we basically had the Civil Rights Act, and simply the guts of that said that it was against the law to discriminate against people because of race, because of color, because of religion, national origin, and sexual orientation. Now that sounds good, and it is good. But now the first major federal legislation that addressed issues of people with disabilities was in 1973. And that is the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. And the section on that is 504. That particular section bans disability discrimination. So that's the first federal law that puts some teeth to discriminating against people with disabilities. But now the granddaddy of them all is the ADA. And that was signed into law 30 years ago, as a matter of fact. It was signed into law, I believe, July the 26th, 1990. President Hubert W. Walker Bush signed that into law. Now, unlike the Civil Rights Act of 1964, ADA requires certain things, and it kind of makes sure that employers that are covered under this, they are mandated to provide certain things for people with disabilities. One of the big things is reasonable accommodations with disabilities, and impose some accessibilities on these companies, as well as requirements in public accommodation areas. So there's a lot that is covered there. But let me say this, we have come a long way, but we have a long way to go. Because as recent as October 17th, 2019, we had to litigate again, and that concerning students in school. Students have the right for reasonable accommodations. And it's sad that we had to go to court to establish that, but at least based on the Rehab Act of 1973, reasonable accommodations is now something that's in our public school system. Now, what is person-centered planning? Basically, person-centered planning is an ongoing problem-solving process to help people with disabilities plan their future. All person-centered plans should ensure that the person of focus has the same rights as everyone else in the community in which they are to live. And some of those things that should be and are mandated is having opportunities to participate in all aspects of community life, having choices about where you live, with whom you live, and how you want to live. Also, you should have the right to make choices, but of course, as you know, choices come with responsibility for your actions. Just because you have a disability, you shouldn't be denied that opportunity. It also should make sure that taking risk and being allowed to fail, believe it or not, disability or not, all humans fail at something. So never try to stop a person with a disability from failing. And then you need to be able to have the ability to control and direct your own life. We also have to remember that no two are alike. What is important to one person might be different from the other person. Person-centered training, it depends on a commitment of a team of individuals who care about the person of focus. The person of focus is who the plan is being put together for. These individuals on this team make sure that the strategies that have been discussed in meetings are implemented. Person-centered planning is designed to look at a person in a different way. Society has a tendency to look at a person's disability before they do anything else. They see disability. If it's physical, they see it. And that's the first thing they see. Person-centered planning doesn't look at the disability, it looks at the person. Person-centered planning also makes sure that people are given the opportunity to gain control over their own lives. Person-centered planning gives the person increased options for participation in the community. Person-centered planning recognizes individual desires, interests, and dreams. And at the end of the day, person-centered planning is a team effort consisting of making adjustments, making adaptations, and improvising to turn dreams into reality. Thank you.
Jerry, thank you so much. Jerry is one of the trainers. I did forget to mention. Thank you for putting that in such a way. That is the information we hope to impart to people as they go through the modules. Jerry, that was amazing. Thank you. And just a quick turn over to Joan Rumenap on the advisory group, forming the experience and train the trainer.
Hi, this is Joan Rumenap. I'm the Special Projects Program Manager for Accessible Resources for Independence, which is the independent living center providing services in Howard and Anne Arundel counties. One of the special projects I've been involved with has been Expectations Matter, My Life, My Choice, and My Plan. As Gail said, we started this back in September, and the advisory group experience, we started soliciting members in October. Our first meeting was November the 7th, where we had up to 14 people plus shared support staff, and we all were either in person, by Zoom, or on the phone. We did continue with our momentum for planning by using Doodle. That was a great way for us to schedule meetings and make sure it was convenient for everyone. And it was nothing for us to meet more than once per month in this planning. So what do we know about person-centered planning? We know it's necessarily not fun. It's definitely not easy. And the impact and results of poor planning is rampant in people's lives. As one of our advisory members said, as well as others, with good planning, my life is great. And there's like 12 exclamation points after that. So the advisory committee, the group went on to finalize the modules. We do have 2 modules. One is a 1-hour module and the other is a 2-hour more in-depth module. We determined the outreach and communication for the trainers as well as the training, such as who was going to be doing the trainings, when we were going to be doing the trainings, etc. We developed a manual and a guide for training participants. We developed a trainer plan, and such as train the trainer, which is going to be talked about in a little bit, and a training schedule. And each trainer was observed before they were able to do training themselves. We do trainings either by ourselves or jointly with other trainers, which has been great. We assisted in developing a post-training satisfaction survey, developed pre- and post-training assessments, and for those people who are interested, training participants, they would allow us to follow them to see how their person-centered life was going and continuing on. So that's where we were with the advisory group experience and the training. So I'll turn it back to Gail.
Thank you so much, Joan. Awesome. Next for Crystal or Shannon. Crystal to speak as a trainer.
Hey, I'm Crystal. I work with the Image Center. I'm the program director for the Out and About program. We provide nursing facility program education, outreach, and peer support to people that are looking to leave the facility and live in the community with supports and things like that to help them. I also provide a number of other functions at the Image Center. I help with advocacy, and I've been a strong believer in person-centered planning for quite some time, which was I was really honored to work with Gail and Expectation Matters and the entire team on this. I've definitely had the luxury of providing this training, and it was such like an honor to be able to do that, because this training is highly needed. Like, a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to tag off of what Jerry said. Person-centered planning has been around since 1959, but it has just been around. Like, it's just been that. And this is an ongoing problem-solving process. And that's what person-centered planning is able to give to people. So I love that you put it so eloquently, Jerry. Thank you for saying that. Like, and the biggest benefit to this training is that we've been given this opportunity to speak up for ourselves and to self-identify our goals and stuff like that. But to a lot of people, it doesn't come naturally because it's still like a new opportunity. You're still educating the people that you work with on the fact that you are the center of the process and that everything that you do in your life is based around you. So I think for like a lot of the participants in the training, and based on the feedback I get, the training validates your ability to speak up for yourself. If you don't know how to speak up for yourself, it helps to teach people how that's done and in what types of environments that can be done. It reinforces the fact that you can advocate for yourself, and that we can just control the world around us. Like, I know even myself, I have one particular doctor that still treats me very clinically, and it drives me berserk. And I say, well, I should be good at this by now, but I still have to remember my skills for how do I manage a meeting, right? If things are going, if the topics are getting away from me, how do I pull it back to what it is that I really want to do? And being part of this train-the-trainer process and providing this training to people really kind of pulls apart that perspective that, no, when you apply for services, it doesn't have to be that so-called, okay, you go fill out a form, a person cross-examines you and leave, right? It's not supposed to be like that when you're applying for services or trying to make plans for yourself. And that's when person-centered planning really comes out. And I feel like a lot of people in this training are really getting an eye on that and starting to advocate for themselves even more passionately. So that's been my experience of it. And I'm going to turn it back to Gail, and thank you again, for putting this all together. The team that put it together was amazing. The advisory group was amazing, and the content is phenomenal. I recommend anyone to take it. And I recommend a lot of other people try to become a trainer. If you haven't dabbled in it, it doesn't take that much time. I was able to do it with the onslaught of referrals we have right now during the pandemic, saying, I want to get out of the facility. We are so busy, but I'm still able to do this. And I'm able to do this because it's so well put together. So thank you. And thank you all that put it together.
Crystal, thank you so much. Thank you. Shannon.
Hi, good to see
Shannon.
everyone.
Thank you.
So everyone has said everything, everything that needs to be said really has been said, but with the person-centered training, I'm telling you, repeat. We repeat everything, and we do that because it's very important for folks to hear things over and over repeatedly. So I'm going to say, you have the power. You are the person that needs the service. You have the power. You are in control of the team. It's on your time. This is your destiny, and you have control. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've received from this is that, I am a person. I am human. I have a voice, and I have the right to use my voice, and it's up to me to do what I need to do for myself. We grow up, especially I believe that individuals with disabilities that were born with their disabilities, they grew up with everyone doing everything for them. And then when they get to that teenage age, folks expect for them to just go out into the community and do these things. I encourage people to please start teaching your children to advocate for themselves at a younger age, because it become easier for them as they get older. This training has allowed me to belch out what I've been saying for years. I am in control of my life, not my mother, not my sister, not my brothers. I am in control. You are my team. So person-centered training is really just training people to use their team for their strengths and to help the individual with the disability obtain the goals that they want to obtain. And that's power right there.
Mm. Shannon, thank you. That's awesome. Shannon usually makes me cry. That's probably I've invested a lot of.
I'm sorry, Gail.
Awesome.
I just got back in my chair.
Awesome.
They was here fixing my chair. My body is killing me, so I just wanted to belch that out.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing the power behind that as well. Thank you so much. Turning it over to Christy. So Shannon was the first trainer to present in July when we started the training, along with the co-presenter, Joseph. And it was just the evaluations and the engagement, really the engagement of people with disabilities and family members during that training. I don't think there was nothing more we could have hoped for, all of us, Shannon and Joseph included. So thank you. Christy, we're going to turn it over to Christy to talk about some of the elements of the project as well. Accessibility.
When I saw the agenda this morning, I was like, I have to follow Shannon. How unfair is that? So I tell you now, I am not going to be as exciting as Shannon, because I'm just going to talk about, well, it's important, the formats and the tools and the accessibility portion of what we're doing with this project, which is really exciting. Like Gail said at the top, we had initially planned on a lot of this training to be done online as well as in person. That was always the plan when we applied for the grant. But it just so turns out that we're starting fully and completely online, because in the time of COVID, that is what life looks like right now. And so in that manner, we have a lot of ways that we can present the presentation and the materials and resources to folks in Maryland who would want to receive this training to make it accessible for them. A couple of those, the first one is the most obvious because we're on it right now, Zoom. I know everyone is a lot more familiar and comfortable with this than they might have. I see all these chats about Shannon because she's awesome. I hope she sees them. So everybody's more familiar with it, which is really exciting. So we've been able to do a lot of presenting on Zoom. Kind of in the same vein, we're also able to present a Zoom live on Facebook at the same time. So we have the ability to have participants in a call on Zoom and then have a more sort of anonymous participation on a Facebook Live, if that makes any sense to anybody, which is exciting. In the vein of being accessible, especially to folks who might not have as good of broadband internet, we have the ability to get trainers on calls or on smaller video calls with people to go over the presentation and the materials one-on-one or in a smaller group, which is really exciting too. That people can just get their packets mailed to them, and they can have a trainer get on the phone with them and go through all of the elements of the modules, which is really good. We also have been dabbling in recorded events to make sure that people have the ability to access certain portions at times based on what they need. So if they are getting ready to pre-plan, they might want to pull from the pre-planning section of their resources and a video to be compiled with it, which is good. I can't read my notes anymore. Oh, the presentation and other resources have been and will continue to be made available in a lot of different ways. So in a PDF so that people who use screen readers will have access to it. And similarly, all of our materials have been assessed for plain language to make sure that everything is accessible cognitively, because we want to make sure that all of this is for everyone in Maryland who wants it and needs it. Yeah, that's kind of my accessibility spiel. Any questions about that, like how we've been doing, how we've been presenting, and how we plan to present in the future online and in person?
I have a question.
Mhm.
I'd like to know how to accept. I've been hearing everybody tell how wonderful the program is. I'm excited about it. I want to know how to access it.
Yeah, so we have some September dates. I think, Gail, we can.
Yay, well, I'm coming or seeing it.
Awesome. Yeah, we have some September dates that we will get out to you guys as soon as we can.
Awesome. Thank you. I know my
really
caregiver here would
excited
love
about
to have some training, and his program he normally goes to has no knowledge base at all, and they're needy. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But we want to make sure it's as accessible as possible to everyone, and we'll continue to make things available.
And then also, can you share with everybody how they become a trainer, please?
Absolutely. Gail.
Yes.
Can you do that?
Yeah, I can. And I'm also going to pull up a sign up if you want to receive email alerts about the trainings that will have the schedule. You could just click on that. And if anyone wants to see that afterward, we can send that out. And just a note, so back to who is invited, just because this comes up very often. We're really, really, really particular. We've had about, 62 people that included family members and people with disabilities. And we have over 100 people that comprised 2 trainings that were from providers. That was a very special, offering, and that was because we were supposed to have done a training at the Maryland Association for Community Services Direct Support Conference in May. That was canceled, so we did it by Zoom. Outside of that, we are 100% married to the fact that you must be a person with a disability and or a family member. It is not for providers unless you are supporting someone to come or you've invited people to come, then you're welcome to come. So just to keep that in mind, and yes, we've kicked people out. And that does not mean that we don't think that everyone should come or we would not want them to come. It's to reserve the space and to make sure that you're welcome to come if you want to grab a friend and that person happens to have a disability and is or a family member. It's just a little bit about that. So in year 2, which is a good caveat, Sherry, to train the new trainers, we have several focus areas to build off of. I'm not going to build off too much, but what Christy was talking about. In terms of accessibility, there isn't, like, every time we do something, we find something we need to do the next time in terms of reaching people and making it clear. So we're going to really take a big leap into that for accessibility, language translations. We have an ASL that we are preparing to do as well, and take a lot of feedback around that. So one of the things that we have been doing is taking feedback. We have a big asked the advisory group, how's it going? We asked people who participate in the training what they think so we can improve, and then internally with the advisory group and trainers to continue to make improvements. With the partners like the SILs, we would want to hear your impressions as well from kind of another outside perspective. If you haven't, what does communication look like? Except a lot. Sometimes, that's feedback too, that we need to narrow things down and not send so many emails. So in terms of train the trainer, that component, so year 2, we are going to do a little bit of a broader reach. This year's trainers were not hand selected, sounds a little prissy, that's not what we mean, but we definitely reached out to people who, like we said in the beginning, shared the value and walked the talk. It is, we want to make sure that not only is the material is one thing, but being able to really get to the nuances of people directing their lives and services like SILS do and Shared Sport does, are things that are really forefront to all the trainers, and they make no mistakes about that. So the next set of trainers, we will have a small application process, and similar will recruit, but in a wider way, for people that want to train. So there'll be some little bit of application and type of interview that screens for those things, not whether or not you're able to train or ever have trained. We are training people that this is their first job. This is their first support needs, just to be descriptive about that. So, and then there will be a similar process. We will have the trainer manual, and then the current trainers will be trained on that process, and then we'll train new trainers. We use the words train the trainer about 90 times in a different variety of contexts. So it is a big component. So when we look back at the two biggest pieces of this, is that people with disabilities and families are trained on person-centered planning, and people with disabilities and families are leading this project and conducting the training and training new trainers. The other, this year, we have started our lessons learned in sustainability, which we were talking about is part of some of the evaluative process. So those are, I actually revised what I was saying 90 times because everyone said such amazing things. I hope that was clear at the end. Was I prepare and then I re-prepared as people were talking. So it was phenomenal. So those are the bigger elements of the planning, with a lot of detail on how the process has gone. So we can definitely open it up for questions. I will put that link in the chat and send it to, is it Heather or Michael, and maybe back to Heather, and then I can also send the dates for the trainings. But we can open it up for Q&A if you'd like. Darlene, thank you. I'm just, what is the Zoom training information? Darlene, are you, would this be, what are the dates for the next trainings? Got it. So we will send you the dates, and I will get this link on there now so that you can sign up. And our registrations are being worked on this week and next, so the registrations will open within the next 2 weeks. Thank you, Darlene. I don't think I see any other questions in the chat.
I actually have a question.
Yes.
So my son goes to a program that would be, he's in between day program and self-employed, but they have no knowledge on people with autism, and surely they don't have any knowledge in getting people ready for work. Are there any programs to point them in, or otherwise any other good programs people might have a suggestion for? We're not getting any Zoom, nothing. So since everything closed up, it's just me or my son alone, and now he has a caregiver.
Sherry, just who was that directed to? I just want to make sure.
Oh, I was asking you. Just because you're so knowledgeable in such a broad way.
Oh,
just for
okay.
Any suggestions of maybe programs or training, maybe, if he has no choice and that's where he has to go back to, unless, we move to self-directed, which is really where I'm moving towards, which can hurt anyway for the caregivers. Any place, I know this program is going to be for us, which I'm thankful for. But is there any good resources you can share for some of the individuals who either are running these programs or caregivers that come to people's homes or are doing Zoom? Some nice, to work on either he's 24, so he's older than pre-ets. Somebody just wrote pre-ets on it. So, and it would not just be for him, for any of our kids. Right now they're home, so this is probably a good chance to teach them all different kinds of skills, how to fend for themselves, maybe some work skills, and working on some realistic, I know that's not the right word, but applicable to daily life, math and reading skill, whatever it might be. But he's, really, I'm working. Any suggestions?
What county are you in?
Howard. Hi, how are you?
So it might be a good idea to talk with ARI some, and then I'm assuming that your son is in a DDA funded waiver.
He is.
So I work for DDA. I will put my email address in the chat, and then
Thank
we
you.
can talk.
Yeah, they're very
offline.
lovely. His program, I'm sure we're not alone, is lovely, nice people who have no clue on how to take care of anybody that's there. It's really sad. So even if we leave, it would be nice for them to be trained so they could help people in a whole. That would be excellent for them. And I've been, I'm saying it can't hurt.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Shannon. I just wanted to say, Independence Now, we're providing Zoom meetings for a lot of different independent living skills training events that anyone across the state of Maryland or anywhere else, any person with a disability is invited to attend. If you go to Independence Now website and look at our calendar, and you could just look over the events, and he's welcome to come. And tell him, bring his friends. We'd love to have him. Education is what we love to do. Empowering people is what we should be doing. We do every day, but any way we can reach out to someone or anyone can connect with us, is powerful. So
thank you.
And this is Gail Godwin. If their agency would support their customers and or family members to join, they can request a person-centered planning module, 1 hour or 2, and it can be done specifically for them.
I think they're dying for anything. They've asked and asked, and they've had no response. So I think they really need help desperately.
Hi, this is Audrey Sellers. I am the COVID-19 program manager with Accessible Resources for Independence, but I used to work a lot with independent living and youth transition. So if it's all right with you, I will give you the contact information for the person to contact at ARI for independent living skills for your son. That be all right?
Totally.
Absolutely.
Right, you got it.
I'll send it to you in the chat.
Thank you. It's nice to meet everybody.
Are there any other questions?
Well, Gail just listed those dates. I'll read them really quickly, just in case
you.
for our our phone call people. September 12th will be our 1 hour module from 10:30 to 11:30. And then September 14th will be a 2 hour module from 7 to 9 p.m. October 8th will be a 1 hour module from 7 to 8 p.m. October 17th, 2 hour module from 10 to noon. And then October 20th will be the 1 hour module from 8:30 to 9:30 in the morning.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy. All right. Thank you, everyone, and all the speakers. Oh no, Shauna, good question. We have that a lot. It is 1 hour standalone, 2 hours standalone. Thank you for asking. We need to make that, that was definitely feedback. We need to make that super clear in our communications. You just want to come to one, or you can come to 2, both of them, but they're not consecutive, or one does not need to be done before or the other.
Looks like there's some other questions that are in the chat. Oh, Cheryl's taking them on. All right.
If we don't get any further questions, I just wanted, from my own personal perspective, say thank you, Gail, for the leadership that you bring to the community. I do have a kind of might be a hard question for you, and so you don't have to answer it now.
I'm nervous.
I realize these questions get me in trouble sometimes, and I certainly don't ask them to embarrass you, but I ask them to learn, so I can learn from them. And the question is, what realization have you come to in the last 3 to 5 years that has really changed your perspective on the services you provide? Anything that happened where you just went, oh my gosh?
That's awesome. That's an awesome question. And I love that question. Thank you for asking it. And thank you for what you said. I think just there's, for me, it's just been so definitively obvious at every turn that people direct everything, and that our role in a service system is to be, I don't know if the word is behind or underneath or in the support, is to really come behind people. This isn't, and I don't mean this in, you know, a philosophical way, but what we've found is the less we are in front of people, and sometimes even next to people, really removing a barrier, could be ourselves. So I haven't prepared this, Michael. So I'm just, this is off the top of my, yeah, no, I just love it. So like, bear with me. This could be like a 9-hour answer. I'm just kidding. I know this ends soon. It's really, and not, I think the change has been really for me personally, is the leadership in people's own lives. And if I may say this, the leadership at our organization as well. I think that, you know, we're looking at a change where there could be a collection of people leading an organization. It's a disability service organization. So making sure that those who are, if we want to call it, in charge of some things like getting our license renewed, but really people are in a real position of leadership. And I think that's what, you know, we do look at our job descriptions, why, you know, as we work, we feel that our jobs change on a daily basis because we don't have a one way to do it. And that's been hard, I think, too, internally. But I think we're pretty patient with that. I have so many things to say, and they're not coming clearly, but no, I think in the last 3 to 5 years has probably been my biggest learning. So I would like to write on that, Michael, and get back to you.
It's fine. I loved your being beside rather than in front of people. I've been doing a lot of studying lately of non-management models that around the world and how they work. And it's a whole change in mental processing and philosophy that I'm still trying to grok. So thank you. That's a really big lesson to learn, and I think it's probably going to be a life lesson for me to just keep learning it. So thanks for bringing it up, because it really is important, and thanks for being there for us.
Thank you so much. For the same way. Thank you.
So a few more questions. Can anyone help me with a therapist for my son? He is an adult and struggles with hygiene.
Probably need to know a little bit more, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, it might be helpful to know what area that you live in so that we could probably follow up with you based on the area that you're in, and someone with resource knowledge about that can maybe reach out to you.
Guys, I already sent her the information. I've been chatting with her.
Oh, okay.
So I've already sent it to her.
Okay.
Awesome.
It's helpful to know what therapy means. What's a therapist? Yeah.
Mike, she's yours. So I sent her your information.
Okay.
Okay, and then someone asked about training on the Eastern Shore, and that was answered. It's a statewide training available to everyone in Maryland, or everyone who meets the qualifications aforementioned in Maryland.
Thank you.
And then there was a question, any thoughts on caregivers? Not sure.
The immediate thought that comes to my mind is that I wish caregivers would stop providing so much care and start involving more.
Caregivers in Howard County.
Less care.
I love your answer, Mike. I think my first thought when I think of caregivers is that you're a caregiver. You are to provide a service for the individual. So anything that I need and I ask for should be provided for within your job title. And I think, you know, when people are speaking to me, that my caregiver should zip it. I have a voice, I can speak. Let me speak for myself. That's the first thing I think, because they always jump in and answer questions for you.
Well, and very often they do things for you that you don't need them to do. They want to care, they want to give so much that they're not waiting to see what can you do yourself and how can they help you be independent.
Oh, okay, so I think she's talking about recruiting people to work. And I think, you know, that can be very tricky. And I know Gail, as a support broker agency, you all help people in figuring out where to post and how to post and to find caregivers, but it's definitely difficult. Gail, do you have any thoughts on that and ways to find support people?
I mean, I think just that was echoing. The way that we would suggest it would be to have the most personalized advertisement and recruitment process possible so that it is, you know, for lack of a better, you know, you're not advertising to masses of people that, you know, might fit a criteria of, you know, that really fit his criteria or her criteria, their criteria. So I think, you know, the recruitment, you know, if you can hang on to make sure the match is ideal is what we would recommend. It's just the kind of process that we help people through when we're helping people recruit, is that an ad and a recruitment process is super specific to that person. You know, and the person is first. They are involved in all that development. They're at the screening, they're at the interview. It's not a secondary or third part of that process where, you know, they finally get to meet the candidate that's possible. So that's a really important, we think, an important part of that. And then looks like Audrey has mentioned again in the chat, lots of info with a phone number. It's always good.
Great, so we're just about out of time. Lori, are you there? Oh, you can't hear her. So she's there. I guess I can end us up. So Gail and crew, thank you so much for coming on. I was surprised. I didn't know any other SIL people besides Crystal and Joan were going to be on the call. So I was so excited to see Shannon and Jerry from our sister SILs on the call as well. You know, this program is not possible without your support. So if you have a few dollars to give, it goes to a worthy cause. We're helping to educate so many people on pertinent disability issues. We're creating a movement in Maryland. And so if you have, you know, if you can give up your cup of Starbucks for the day and donate to the cause, we would appreciate it. Every time that you sign up for this, there's a donate button that you can click for a secure donation. Also, I wanted to provide people an opportunity, thank you, Gail, provide people an opportunity to share community events or activities. I'm going to post in the chat, we have Maryland Accessible Telecommunications, MD Relay presenting with us on Wednesday. So I'm putting the link to that in the chat. If you would like to join, anyone can. That should be a great presentation to learn about all the different programs that they have to offer that help people communicate telephonically. And anyone else have anything they'd like to announce or mention?